Mr. Gussie, I've heard the ministers at press conference here. Just, what was your first impression hearing their reasoning and comments on the start of this inquiry?
Well, they're quite right that they're starting off their legislative requirements for the public inquiry. I think it's going to be a very important aspect of the review. I think that for a lot of Canadians, the trust has been broken between government and civil society groups like the police and the whole public safety frameworks. So we're going to be doing our work as parliamentarians in a joint committee. That's a very important aspect of this process as well. And I think that there are some concerns about information and how it will be conducted to the public, what's held in cabinet confidence, and what is going to be made available to help Canadians better understand just how we got to the situation that we got into.
What do you think they should waive cabinet confidence and any other security requirements in terms of the documents?
Well, I know that in our particular committee, we have been sworn in, and we will hopefully have parliamentary privileges as accorded to us through jurisprudence. What the inquiry does with the newly appointed justice will be something separate to what we're doing. But certainly from my perspective, we will be pushing to have as much of the discussion had within the public forum as we possibly can. I know that Canadians have many questions. And as somebody who supported the invocation of the Act, we did so with the information that was made publicly available. But as we've come to find out and discover in the weeks after, that there is a lot more going on, of which I think Canadians rightfully have the duty to know about.
Just on the announcement of the commissioner of the inquiry, what do you think of Justice Rouleau being appointed?
I don't have a personal comment on Justice Rouleau. I would take the government at their word that he is a learned jurist who will be able to handle the public inquiry side quite well.
How confident are you that you'll be able to make a determination of whether it was justified or not with these inquiries?
Well, I would suggest that my particular focus, and as New Democrats, what we're interested in, is having a process that is fully transparent, that provides for accountability in the failures of the different levels of government, understanding the preconditions ultimately that led up to the invocation of the Act, getting a deeper understanding of what was the national threat to security under the Emergencies Act, particularly under subsection D and section 2. And so, I don't come at this with conclusions. I know that we supported something based on the information that was made publicly available, and now it'll be a process of delving into, in a parallel track, some of the social, political conditions that led to ultimately the invocation of the Act.
What do you think of the special committee's work? I know tomorrow, for example, the RCMP commissioner is going to be there, the public safety minister, the head of CSIS. What about the pace of the special committee's work? Have you been satisfied, or do you think it's dragging along?
No, I think given the scope and the historic nature of the committee, we're being very diligent to walk through a process that is thoughtful and is respectful to the seriousness of this. I think that by and large, we've done a good job to keep it as nonpartisan as we can. Of course, we have members from the Senate who offer valuable perspectives as well. And I think that it was important for us from the onset to get a work plan that would lead us down a path that would provide to the fullness of answers that Canadians are asking for.
You said just a moment ago there were other things going on that you didn't know about before the Act was revoked. Is that the things you've learned through the committee, and what exactly do you mean by that?
No, I would say through the news, there's been wide reporting on some of the interactions with local policing, decisions that were made or not made through the provincial levels of government, municipal levels of government. Of course, there's been information that's come out of the different regions and where they've been impacted, and we feel that for as much as what happened here in Ottawa, there are other areas of the country that were also impacted in different ways, and I referenced Coots and the nature in which those discoveries were made. And I think that it's an important part that in the conversation around the blockades of goods and services and the economic impacts, that we don't lose sight of the concurrent legal processes, discoveries, and public disclosure of what the organizers' intents were. So as those proceedings continue, I think that more information is coming to the public fore that will help guide us in the process.
Would you, given what you know now, law, would you support it if you had to do it again?
I would have, yeah. I believe that it was a national emergency security, and I think that, early on in our committee's work, testimony from the Honourable Perrin and Beattie, the law clerks of the House and the Senate, I think provided us with compelling testimony that underscores the unique nature of the committee, underscores the spirit in which the original legislation was drafted, recognizing that while it might have been true in the early considerations of it happening concurrent to the Emergency Act, that given the fact that it was revoked, it was pretty clear, at least from my perspective in the testimony of the witnesses, that there is a need for us to continue down this path, one that is open and public and transparent, and one that involves both elected members of Parliament and our friends from the Senate.
How is this inquiry announced today going to impact your work at the committee? How are you going to watch it closely? Could it have an impact in some way of the ways you're going to work?
I would argue that every legal proceeding and legislative component of the Emergency Act is going to be watched closely. As I had mentioned, some of the legal proceedings of the early organizers have been, I think, really important testimony and disclosure to get a better sense for what the overall intent was, what the plannings were, those that were involved, the amount of logistics that went into it, the funding. I think for the first time, we're seeing a direct action that was political in nature, target civilian populations in ways other direct actions haven't. So there's the impact on the communities that I referenced before, the residents of Ottawa, hopefully having the opportunity to put forward, in their own testimony, how this would have impacted them and affected them. All of these considerations would go into, hopefully, a process that will allow us to provide strong legislative recommendations to ensure that this doesn't happen again in the same way, and that we have all the tools necessary within our public safety frameworks to provide, law and order within our communities while respecting our charter rights to lawfully assemble and to provide civil disobedience in places that are, appropriate.
Does the NDP have any issue with the Liberal appointing its own commissioner as opposed to making it a House vote, for example?
I think that, in all appointments, the government has that prerogative. I don't have any particular issues, nor have I heard it from our party within this particular appointment. I think that we have faith in the process that's happening within the Joint Committee, and we certainly take it with the seriousness that it deserves. We don't have an end in mind in terms of the timing or the pace. We want it to be thoughtful, we want it to be deliberative, and we want it to be inclusive of all the information that we could possibly add to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.